All right, so Stephen, Otte,
All right, yeah. Nice.
Thanks for sitting down with me.
Absolutely.
This has been a long time coming.
Yes.
I think we talked about this like 6 months or a year ago to have a discussion about TIFs. And I know very little about TIFs. And I've heard from a lot of different people, hey, you got to talk to Stephen Otte. He's done a ton of research on them, produced stuff. I saw you speak at that commissioner meeting 2-3 months ago when they were trying to put the TIF down.
Yep.
Yeah, in Dillsboro that was.
Right, yes.
And I know they only gave you a short amount of time. And so you said there's a whole lot more to it. I said, well, let's shoot a podcast sometime. Yeah, I got busy, you got busy. And, people ask me sometimes, like, so what's your goal with this podcast that you're doing? And truthfully, some people podcast for like attention or like make money out of it, whatever else. I started this probably about 2 years ago because nobody puts anything in the paper anymore. And if you do, nobody reads it.
Right.
If you go on social media, all you hear are sound bites of different things. And, you recognize the last few years, guys like Tucker Carlson and all these other folks that have been, the Sean Ryans, the Dan Bongino's of the world. Podcasting is like the new version of, you can't buy us out, the legacy media. We're going to report on what we want to report on.
Right.
And so, but nobody's doing that for Southeast Indiana and issues that affect our everyday life. And so I never thought in 1,000 years I would be involved in county government. And I guess I'm not because I'm not in office, but I'm involved in helping other people run for office. And what's interesting to me, we're in another primary and you look at certain people's campaigns and it's like some people are just running on name recognition.
Absolutely.
This is who I am. This is who my dad and mom are. And they're good people. Right. But people don't really understand when you start talking about an issue like a TIF, a subdevelopment, data centers, solar farms, other kind of development, things like the sewer board. I didn't even know Dearborn County had a sewer board. That's how clueless I was about local infrastructure. And then you start finding out where certain people are, and you go, man, I really love that person as an individual. We're great friends. We agree on so many things on a federal issue, and then you find out where they're at maybe on a county issue, and you go, well, I still like them as a person, but I don't know if their ideas or their position is what I want to vote for. Yeah. And so the reason for this podcast is just to start creating a situation where name recognition doesn't just get in. I want to have a program that is so widely viewed that somebody can come to this area with zero name recognition and present and talk about the specific issues in our county, educate people, and earn the vote. Right. So the people are earning the vote, and the people we have getting into office are earning it because of competence and their knowledge and their positions that they transparently tell voters about, not just who my daddy and mommy were and, I've known everybody for forever and I'm a good guy or a good girl. And so that's the whole point of this. So if if this is the third person in the audience over here, and I know a little bit about TIFs, but somebody else knows nothing about TIFs, that's kind of the position that I'd like to cover tonight. Okay. But before we do all that, can you just jump into your background, born, raised, how you've gotten into this area, and how maybe you started learning about this stuff, and take 5-10 minutes and just share your background.
I will. Happy to do that. So I want to thank you for what you're doing because this is so important. And issues like the TIF, issues like Link 101, like the solar farms, all of that is so incredibly important. And the way I found myself getting into the TIFs is similar how I found myself getting into Link 101 is because I realized...
You were involved with Link 101? Stop Link 101?
Very much with Stop Link 101. Because I realized that nobody else is going to do it unless we all do it ourselves. Right. If you care about an issue, you have to get involved. You have to speak up. So let me a little bit about myself.
Born and raised where?
I was born and raised in Northern Kentucky. Okay. My family, 30 years ago, when I was a little kid, we bought property in Bear Branch, Indiana. That's Ohio County. Right. We've since expanded that farm. It's 150 acres approximately now. We've been there since the 90s, and I cherish all those memories. My heart is here in Southeast Indiana. I'm not a resident of Southeast Indiana, but I'm here all the time. I might as well be a resident. We're property owners. We're there. That's where my heart is. I love this region. I love the people here. I love what our culture is here, and especially just the natural beauty of this region. So, and that started when I was a little kid. And I remember, weekends going out hiking, biking all these roads, and seeing that this is a special place. All the counties, Dearborn, Ohio, Switzerland, all these areas is really special. And as I've gotten older, I realized that I have an obligation to take care of it. We're all stewards of what we have here. And what really got me involved is in more public positions is Link 101, Stop Link 101. When that started, I remember feeling so incredibly distraught about what that meant. And what I felt...
Was that going close to your family farm or no?
One route was about 5 miles from it.
Okay.
But I remember feeling a sense, even though it didn't directly impact our property, I felt, look, this is a issue that impacts all of Southeast Indiana. And, and I'm going to be clear, I'm not anti-growth, I'm not anti all development. Right. But what I realized is...
What is your background by trade, by the way?
I'm an attorney.
Okay.
So I practice family law.
Here in Indiana, or?
I'm licensed in Ohio.
Okay.
I do want to expand eventually here because I got a lot of connections here. So anyway, I thought, okay, I've got a skill set and I care deeply about it. But what I was seeing was there's a lot of outside interest. There's people, or even people here that have interests that may not be in line with what the rest of us are. And I felt Link 101 was one of those issues.
Right.
So that segued me into saying, okay, we can stand up and we should stand up. And when we were successful in stopping that, I realized I can help in other areas. And then this TIF issue popped up. And,
So for people who don't know what a TIF is.
Yes.
Is it TIF, TIFF, what's a TIF?
TIF, tax increment financing.
Okay.
So it's a tool that municipalities, local governments can use. And the primary purpose of a TIF is to spur economic development in a particular economic region.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to be clear, I don't think TIFs in and of themselves are inherently bad.
Okay.
There is value in a TIF well done. And but what the basic concept of a TIF is, the government or the municipality, they designate an area, and this is done through a redevelopment commission. So and we have one here. A lot of people don't even realize who these people are that are on it, what they do, but this is one of their roles, and it's by statute that they have a redevelopment commission appointed. They can then...
Council and commissioners appoint to the redevelopment commission. I think Dearborn County currently has 7. I think commissioner has 4 of those appointments, and council has 3, or vice versa. It's something like that. But it's 7. Okay. It used to be 5. Last year they expanded it to 7 to get some more diversity on there and different perspectives. So it's an odd number. I think the commissioners have the majority appointment, but it's council and commissioners. So 4 councilmen, 2 commissioners are the controlling vote or the majority vote to get any one of those people on there and fill that.
It's important because you have people that when you elect these people to these positions, they're now appointing people to other positions.
Right.
So you have to be very careful who you elect. But regardless, so what is the TIF? Tax increment financing. You develop an area, an economic zone, and the idea is that the tax stays flat in that zone. You'd say this is so many acres. The increment is as the tax base rises in that area
due to building new infrastructure
or appreciation. That increment, it's the amount above that base.
Okay.
That increment goes back into the district.
Okay.
And it's used to fund improvements into that economic zone.
Are TIFs also allowed for a developer? Say I'm a developer and I want to come in and I want to build a soda factory or something. If I buy a piece of ground and it doesn't have the access for me to be able to get back there, so I'm going to have to put in a county road and county sewer and county water and county electric, I'm able to use the increased value. Let's say the ground's bringing in $1,000 a year of tax revenue. And after I put in my big building and business that creates, 100 new jobs in the area, and it's a $20 million, $50 million complex, and now let's say that thing brings in $80,000 in property tax value.
Right.
The $1,000 stays going to the county, and the increase would be the $79,000.
Correct.
And that goes into now value that I can go get financing for to a private investor or a bank or something. Say, hey, I need this money to put in the road, the sewer, the water. I don't own it, so why should I pay for it? But I want my taxes to pay for it. So the bank's going to fund me the money, and then over the next 3 to 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, it'll pay that off. And then once that infrastructure is paid off, then that money keeps going into the TIF for as long as it is. I think some of the recent ones they did were like a 25-year TIF or something. Is that the max you can?
By statute, I understand the 25 years is max. So that's what you're.
So then once they've got that money in, that redevelopment board then can say, well, we've got 10 years of that TIF money is $790,000. They can say, okay, well, we'll give another business to come in that same TIF, because now we've got negotiating power to try and bring in more business, et cetera.
Oh,
is that correct in my understanding?
Correct. And what you're describing is a concern that I believe a lot of residents here in the surrounding area had. So a couple of things just to point out. So first, the whole concept of a TIF, to even establish it, you have to show what's called a but-for test. But for the government showing that this area would not develop otherwise, but for the TIF, it would not have developed.
So you have to have a justifiable reason.
You got to show
you can't
it.
just TIF anything.
Right. So in our area, the Clay Township, what was, a bit concerning to me, and I think other citizens, is they said they called it the Lake Dill Deer. That is a blighted area. But that was just a fraction of the size of this. It was huge. It was up 4 miles of 50. So, but in any event, you got to show that this but for the TIF, this area wouldn't grow. So what you're describing with developers is a huge concern, is what we had, and I know a couple members of the Redevelopment Commission had that same concern, is this going to benefit a developer who's going to come in and take advantage of this region because they want taxpayers to subsidize their sewer lines, their infrastructure, their roads, et cetera. That was the concern. And we said, look, we don't know where this money, who is this benefiting? Why is it needed? We said, is there really a need here? What's going to go in? And nobody had answers. But what you're describing is, if a big developer wants their project to be subsidized, that's exactly the mechanism they could use.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying I have evidence that was happening here, but a lot of people had concerns that was going to happen here.
Which is legal, and
it would be, right. As long as it meets that but-for test. We argued that you don't even have a but-for test.
So let's back up here. A lot of people, when it comes to a TIF, they only know the TIF that might be in their area. Mm-hmm. If we were to zoom back out and look at all of Indiana, different things that are going on, what are some of the other perspectives that need to be looked at to have a good understanding of how TIFs are being used? You said there are situations where you think TIFs can be used be a very good thing.
Right.
With the right plan, the right objectives, they can be wonderful. What is the flip side of that, where you think they're abused or not used correctly? And if we zoom, maybe even before we start talking about that, can we zoom back out and go, what's happening all over the state? Did you'd mentioned to me some other time you had some numbers from Purdue, some conversations there? How we don't have to get lost in the weeds, but getting it a little bit more specific.
Yeah. So looking at big picture, what I sense and what the research team suggests is you're having more and more influence from big money corporations, multinational corporations that are looking to invest throughout the state of Indiana. That's not inherently wrong, but there's this idea of, okay, can a TIF be used to spur that development? So across the state of Indiana, we're seeing data centers, we're seeing solar farms, we're seeing warehouses popping up, and a lot of them are being funded by TIFs. That they go and these county governments, and they actually pitch the idea of it. But let's talk about when does it make sense and when does it doesn't. So a well-done TIF would be a TIF that is going to spur economic development where it's most needed. And in an area like Southeast Indiana, where I would say, where could it be beneficial, is put it right in a downtown. I argue to the Redevelopment Commission, if you want a successful TIF, put it right square in the city blocks of Dillsboro, not outside the town.
I think they already have a TIF in there.
And they do, right. So we said, is there even a need here? Put it in areas that you want that development, because the TIF is a magnet. Well, you think of it as a magnet. What it does is it pulls investment to that area. And if you take a TIF and you put it outside the town, like they were with the Clay Township TIF, they were going up 50 toward all the way to the Ripley County line. What that does is, and what the research is very clear on, is the TIF does not in itself draw more investment overall. it reallocates, it reshuffles investment. And what I argued to the Redevelopment Commission is if you put a TIF outside of a town square, a town base, you're going to see a situation where you're pulling money and investment out of the town.
Okay.
So I said, look, this does not make sense. This is not a good, well thought out TIF because of that. That was my position. It doesn't.
And it did get voted down. Correct?
It got voted down.
All right. What you had mentioned something about some information that Purdue had done on TIFs, how much money is set aside in TIFs currently. Can you cover any of that?
I'm not sure if like total dollar figure across the state, because I don't have those figures.
I don't remember what it was, but it was in a conversation before, and it kind of went over my head, and I said, well, let's do a podcast and explain it in more detail.
What I have is a volume of research, and I brought it here with me today, is study after study after study shows what is the economic impact of a TIF on a county.
All right, well, let's hear the case of you. How many sticky notes you got there? 7?
Yeah, and I don't have to go through all of them, but
let's just go through and just for topic of conversation. And my hope is tonight. So Commissioner Bischoff is hosting a meeting from some folks up in, I think it's somebody up in Indianapolis, that comes to. They've got this commissioner school to train people in county government or a commissioner fair or whatever you want to call it, where basically they can go up to Indianapolis to get some training on things that have changed, how they can, just how county, state government correlates, different things that have changed, et cetera. Yeah. And there's a lot of vendors that come in and say, here's some stuff we can do for your county, which is a good place. It's like the commissioners can all come to one spot, and it's, hey, sell me on what you got. And it's a great resource. Just kind of creates a good environment for people to kind of pick and choose a la carte of, hey, that might be helpful, that might be not. And I think it was a connection there of somebody that is going to be coming in and doing a training on how TIFs works, what's beneficial, et cetera. So all I'm looking for, I guess, from this sit down is just to add some more perspective, to not be completely encompassing. But, if I've got my cousin that just moved to the county, I'm saying, I can't explain the TIFs, but Steve and Otte can. What are some of the, going through your sticky notes there, what are some of the key points that you would talk about that are relevant to the conversation?
What I would say is, and what the research says, and these are, and by the way, I pulled some of the highest quality studies, people that are the experts in their field on this. And what they show is a lot of county governments don't realize that the negative implications. They look at only the potential positives, and they overlook these negatives. So for instance, I have a study here. This is the foundational study on these. And
Who is this study from?
This study is, we're looking at Richard Dye and David Merriman. And this is cited in pretty much almost all the subsequent studies on TIFs. They go back to him.
Who are these guys?
These guys are, I think
economists?
They are Department of Economics at Lake Forest College in Illinois.
Okay.
And David Merriman is at a Department of Economics at Loyola in Chicago, University of Chicago. Really educated guys. Okay.
Let's hear what they've got to say and some of that perspective.
Yeah. So what do we learn? There's a long study. They go through all these case examples, including throughout Chicago area and even our area. And they find, here's what their central finding is. We find clear and consistent evidence that municipalities that adopt TIF grow more slowly after adoption than those that do not. Shocking to a lot of people, because the whole premise of this TIF is this is going to increase growth.
Really?
And they go into some reasons why. Because what happens is and they go on to say the TIF trades off higher growth in the district itself for much slower growth elsewhere. So, and there's more to it. So you impact negatively everywhere else around it. The TIF grows.
How does it negatively impact the other areas around it?
Well, when you think about as a county grows and developing in businesses are looking for the lowest cost of business, the cheapest opportunities. So they're going to draw. It's a magnet. They go to that area. They invest there at the detriment of the rest of the county. So the county is, and then that's where the business goes. And what you want to see is more of a uniform. If you're looking for growth, you want to see more uniform growth throughout the county. And then what happens is, because the taxes money is going into that TIF district, the rest of the county is losing resources. And the county doesn't have so schools, police, those essential services are now cut out.
So I think one of the things that you had argued, or maybe it was somebody else who had argued at that TIF meeting, which I think that was the first place we met, right?
Yes, yeah.
Was that the TIFs don't raise anybody's taxes. And I understand they technically don't raise anybody else's taxes, but let's say you've got 10 people that are paying taxes and they all chip in $10 a piece and you got a $100 tax base. Well, if you take one of those people and you have 9 people paying taxes and the 10th person is only putting $10 in, as county government and the cost of government, because the cost of living and the cost of roads and the cost of police departments are all more expensive today than they were 10 years ago, specifically 25 years ago. If you go back to 2001, what cops were getting paid versus what they're getting paid now, what county government employees, highway department employees were getting, the cost of asphalt and concrete back in 2001 compared to what it is today. It's, it's doubled I think concrete has doubled just in the last 5 or 6 years. It's really shot up.
Yes.
And so if the cost of all those things of supplying, of those issues, if somebody over here is fixed at only paying $10, even if it goes up to $15, that $5 stays over here, they're still only paying $10. So the other people that had to share only 1/10 have to share that rising cost only among 9 of them.
Absolutely.
So when you've got situations of your school infrastructure being paid for by county tax, your property tax value, the other things that property tax values go to, the general fund of your county, wherever the taxes may flow, that tax burden now gets shifted down to a smaller group of people, so it rises faster.
Right. And
is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. And there, when they say, because we heard that argument in rebuttal, we're not raising your taxes. Well, not right now. How are you going to fund other projects? How are you going to pay, the increased cost of operating the government, schools, fire, police? So
it gets shifted to a smaller number of people.
Now you're just shifting the tax burden. Someone else is going to flip it. And what really bothered me is, let's suppose there is a developer who's coming in there that's going to take advantage of this. Then what's happening is you're having a developer get really they're getting all the prize here. They're getting all the benefits. And the rest of the people outside of that district are now going to have to subsidize what they're not going to be paying, because that tax increment is going back into the district. And again, it's the increment. So, and what was, one comment that really struck me when we were having debate on this is they cited a figure, the increment on this district is only going to be $72,000, and that's only going to raise your tax, that's a loss of 8 cents per person on average.
Right.
Which I thought was a misleading argument, because, that's year one. This is going to be a 25-year TIF. How big is that increment going to grow? When there's more development in that region, that could be millions of dollars every year. That's millions of diverted tax revenue somewhere else. So it doesn't immediately impact taxes. Sure, somebody's going to have to pay for that lost revenue.
Right.
Or
you got to make it up elsewhere.
Or if you don't make it up, and this is a big problem across much of rural Indiana, you have schools that just close. You have essential services that aren't getting covered. So you either make it up by higher taxes, or you just don't pay for things. You cut.
All right. Well, sorry to interrupt you. Go on to the next one. I just wanted to clarify that point.
Yeah. So, one of the quotes here that I highlighted, that they said that municipalities that elect to adopt TIF stimulate the growth of blighted areas at the expense of the larger towns. So similar to what I was saying, we doubt that most municipal decision makers are aware of this trade-off, or that they would willingly sacrifice significant municipal growth to create TIF districts. The research goes on and on about this, that it's essentially, a TIF is really, in essence, it's a shift. It's moving money. It's not necessarily drawing it. There are a few notable examples in some cities that they would say, especially large, ones that are in large metropolitan areas.
Okay.
But for much of rural America, and Dearborn County is on the edge, but we're not quite there yet. For much of it, all you're doing is you're just shifting benefits. And I have a big concern, especially if the person that's behind the TIF, and we had no transparency. We didn't know who brought this to the table, where it came from. If there is somebody, and it's the risk, again, I'm not accusing anybody here, but the risk is, if someone's behind this and really pushing for this, you really are giving somebody a benefit at the expense of everybody else. And you're not benefiting the rest of the county. The theory is, okay, you're going to generate all this business and it's going to eventually benefit everybody. Highly speculative. We didn't see any evidence of that was going to even happen.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So what happens to this money once the TIF runs out? And how much money, are there figures? One of the pros, cons, you weigh the different sides of things. Yes, you can help bring in some current infrastructure and you can fund that through some investing. But the trade-off is, if you've got redevelopment boards that don't know how to, or don't, maybe things are just stalling off, that increment is just getting filed away and filed away. Do you have a number, or do you know on average what the state has just sucked away in siphoned off into TIFs that aren't being used? Because if you think about it that way, it's another way you talk about economic development.
Yeah.
Well, if we all pay a dollar in tax, what stimulates the economy is for that government dollar to get back into the local economy as quickly as possible.
Yes.
That's the argument, that when you spend a private dollar, it circles much faster than when it goes through the government.
Yes.
Right? So that's the argument against income taxes, because the lower income taxes, it speeds up the economy, because we as a private sector shift that money quicker, right? You collect from a client for legal services, you call the plumber fixes it, calls me, the tree trimmer, calls somebody else, the landscaper, goes to the grocery store, and it changes hands multiple times quicker than by the time it goes to the Fed. 6 months later, it gets back out. So that's the argument on that perspective. What is there a total number currently of what money is just taxes that have been paid that are just sitting in an account, not being pumped back into our local economy?
Yeah, I do have some figures, and what I will say, and what you're arguing or what you're suggesting is so true, is you actually reduce. This is why, one reason why the economic activity of a region is reduced, is because of its locking up assets, and spending is limited. So
now it's the tax of taxation,
right?
Because that taxes the economy more than anything else.
Yes. So that's a good point. So what I do have, and this is dated now, but I have a chart here. So this is net asset value by county. You can look here in 2003 to 2012. Dearborn County has over 10%. This was in 2012.
10% what?
Of its net asset value by county, and this is essentially that is in a TIF district.
So over 10% of the county was TIF'd in 2012.
That has its assets in some sort of TIF district, according to this study. So
I'm not following. Explain that again.
Yeah.
10% of the county's assets, meaning tax value access?
The assessed value of the county. So we're looking at the whole county property, where what percent of this is in some sort of TIF district. That's being
10% of Dearborn County is
according to this study. Yes. Net asset value in TIFs. And you can see here, when you look at this chart.
Hold on, wait a second. So this is net asset value in TIF. Does that mean that doesn't mean the whole 10% of the county area is TIF'd, is it? Or is that just saying the value, economic?
I don't want to misspeak and be wrong on this, but we maybe want to have a look at that closely.
10% of the dollar value? Inflation adjusted?
What we know here is that Dearborn County is really quite high. I don't want to be wrong on this one, so maybe we look at this a little bit closely.
It is a bigger number, though.
It's a big number. There's a lot.
So,
and I honestly wouldn't be surprised, because when I looked at certain maps of Dearborn County, there's TIFs up in all over the place, especially in the northeast side of this county.
Really?
Yeah, there's TIFs everywhere. So, is
there a place that somebody can go, like, say, because I've never seen this, is there a map or like a resource somebody can look up to see? You look on that on the...
Yes. I would say the recorder would probably have some resources that you can look at.
Okay.
You're going to, there's... When I look at, and I don't know the name of the system, but you can look at property lines.
Beacon Schneider Corp?
Yeah, you often can see, there may be an overlay on that of where the TIF districts are.
So if there's a TIF, that would be a good place to look.
But I haven't specifically looked for all of them, but it's a public record. You got to do some digging on it. Dearborn County has relied heavily on this.
Okay.
That is clear.
When did TIFs first become a thing? Are these going back to like the early 2000s, the 80s, the 60s?
I don't know for sure. It's been around for several decades.
Okay.
I don't know for sure the exact date that this, especially our particular statute, came into effect.
Well, this is saying 2003.
Yeah, and that may be when the study started on this. This study goes from 2003 to 2012.
Okay. It's almost 10 years, 9 years.
Yeah, but it's been a tool that's been used for some time, and it's what a lot of these studies go on to say is it's just overused now. It's too much, because you're over. The initial benefit that you had, revival of like a downtown area, like a lot of them are already eaten up. Like you said in Dillsboro, there already is one. We didn't understand the need for another one. And going back to that but-for test. If we expect that development can continue up a Route 50 corridor, we didn't see why we would need to subsidize that with taxpayer dollars.
Right. Okay.
Another big thing too, and this is where I come from, is really TIF spur that kind of sprawl. This TIF, the Clay Township District in particular, I talk about what is good, what's bad TIF. I think, in my view, my personal opinion is a lot of the residents out here don't want sprawl, and by sprawl I mean we see warehouses, storefronts, potentially neighborhoods, in a sprawl fashion versus open area. And one thing that I'm a big advocate for, and I believe a lot of citizens out here are, is let's preserve our rural spaces, our green spaces.
Was part of that concern, you had mentioned, did you know about TIFs before you got involved with Link 101?
No, I mean, vaguely. I understand.
How do those, and I don't know if there's technically a way where they cross over, but I had heard just several different people I talked to had said, I think these kind of go hand in hand.
Yes.
What is the connection there? Help me understand that.
Yes. So the idea is Link 101, and Randy Fry talked about this, that this was going to be transformational, that it was going to convert our area into something like Northern Kentucky, which, coming from Northern Kentucky, that is appalling to me.
Where at Northern Kentucky did you grow up? What county?
In Kenton.
Okay.
And it was convenience. My parents worked there. And
what was that like when you were growing up to compare to today?
I remember seeing southern Kenton County and Boone County where there was farms that got completely paved over with subdivisions and warehouses.
Really?
Driving through Hebron, Kentucky is one of, it's ugly.
What was it like when you were growing up?
You had farms, you had apple orchards, you had what I see Dearborn County looks like today in many places. And it was a very, it still had a small town feel at parts of that area, and
how fast did that change?
So rapidly. I mean,
what does rapid mean? Like 10 years, 5 years, 20 years?
You don't even recognize it in certain areas. I remember.
How fast though? Like
in high school, I remember, we'd go out to, there's a high school, Ryle High School in Union.
Yeah.
And
I got a buddy who graduated there.
It was there was farms everywhere around it. You drive out there now, it's sprawl, it's subdivision, it's complete sprawl. And the TIF district, especially on a long corridor like this one was, 1,400 acres up a long corridor, what that invites is sprawl. It invites warehouses and it invites subdivisions. And I just know from having talked to so many people in this region that that's not what most people want out here.
Okay.
People come out here to get away from that sprawl.
So in wrapping up, what are you got a couple more sticky notes tabs I see there. What are a couple of their last 2 or 3 other thoughts on this based on the study and a couple other things?
Yeah, so what I would say, I mean, really it's a call to action on this. I'm not here to advocate and say all growth is bad and that TIFs are inherently bad. You have to be really intentional about what are you doing and understand the unintended consequences. Understand the impact that it's diverting funds from the rest of the county. Understand that it may have undesirable economic costs to people around you. Understand that it may impact your essential services. It may transform your entire region into something that you didn't really want. Data centers, warehouses, they love this stuff. This is what they're drawn to.
Yeah.
So if you're a citizen out here and you say, hey, I'm coming to a quiet county and community to raise my family and I don't want that, then you're going to say, I think twice about a TIF district in an area that overlays open land. That's what this one did. It didn't overlay a tight community. It's like, why are you building? I talked to a few farmers that had farms for 100 years in their family. And they said, why are you putting a district on top of my farm? And you have to question that. And in talking to some of the members of the redevelopment commission, I don't know if all of them fully understood what the impact was, and that they realized,
I didn't even know what a TIF was. I mean, you hear about this. I mean, a year or two ago, I'm like, a TIF,
right?
And somebody starts explaining. You hear one person, and they go, "Oh, okay," and then you go hear somebody else talk about it, and you go, "Oh, that's a little bit different perspective." And I still don't know if I understand it completely.
It's a financing tool. That's the way I think about it. This is a financing tool that a government can use as a lever to draw investment. One other thing that I think is really important I didn't cover, really, really important. Repeatedly we were told, we're not taking anyone's property, we're not raising your taxes. And what I say to that, and Rhett Dennerlein and I did a lot of research on this, that might be true today, but here's the key to understand. When you create a TIF district, you now have a redevelopment commission, and the county is now governing that district. And as they develop that district, they could decide you are now a blight to our district. Your property that is now within this is a blight. An eminent domain absolutely can and does occur in those districts. They absolutely can take your property. And yes, this particular commission might say they're not intending on doing it, but what we said is we don't know who's going to be on that district in 10 years from now.
Does the redevelopment commission, I know commissioners have the ability to use eminent domain, but is it the redevelopment commission itself, or they recommend and then the commissioners who also have appointments on that board then use their power of eminent domain?
My understanding is the redevelopment commission will make that recommendation.
And then the commissioners, the commissioner would the constitutional boundaries there laid with commissioners. They have the ability for eminent domain.
Right.
Okay.
And in closing, some of the really important things that I've learned I think so many people, and maybe it's changing, and I think there's some signs of change, have felt so powerless for so long.
Yeah.
I felt when Link 101 came up that I could do nothing. And then I said to myself, I'm going to go down trying. I'm not going to stop and just let this happen. And through Link 101 and through this TIF district, I realized that citizens have tremendous power, but we give up our power when we don't show up. Yeah. When we don't go to meetings, when we don't voice our opinions, we give up our power. So
when you don't vote.
You don't vote, you give up your power. There are people there's a movement happening. I can see it. There are people that are saying enough's enough. We want to take our government back. We want to be a voice in our government. We don't want leaders that we're constantly having to disagree with. The will of the people is pretty clear, but it feels sometimes like we're not being heard. So stand up. If you don't like something, educate yourself first. Stand up and do something about it. And that's what we've seen repeatedly now.
In closing, to kind of balance this out, if you were sitting, and I know you're not, but if you were sitting on that redevelopment board, what's a situation that, or is there a place in, let's say, Ohio County where you would say this is a healthy place for a TIF to go in and why?
Yeah, I would say.
Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I would say what you got to think about, what's your vision for the long-term future? And what does Southeast Indiana look like, and what's going to make Southeast Indiana attractive? And what I said, and I still believe, our greatest asset by far is the natural beauty of this region. And it's not incidental. It is the fundamental asset. It's why people come here. It's quiet, it's peaceful. You want to invest in a TIF that's not going to degrade that. So what would not degrade it? I think Rising Sun's done a good job developing their riverfront. I think Vivi is a nice small town. They're one of the nice, they got a nice tight core. You want to make it in places you say, this is where we want development, but these surrounding areas, we want to preserve these farms. We want to preserve that open space. We don't want development there, because when you create a situation like Boone County, where Northern Kentucky, where I come from, or look at Ohio, there's areas there. When you lose that fundamental character of what is special about a region, you lose why you even came here. You lose the greatest asset you have. And then you have people that are from outside who are profiting off of your region. Yeah. And
that was my greatest concern. I moved to Dearborn County when I was 8 years old. Mm-hmm. My dad's originally from Minnesota. My mom is originally from central Illinois, just outside of Peoria. She grew up on a dairy farm. My dad grew up in a small town 30 minutes outside of Minneapolis. It had, farms all the way around it. And when we moved here and then growing up here, a lot of my friends were like, I can't wait to get out of here. And I'm going, I don't know, they're moving to the big city. Yeah. I'm going, you couldn't pay me to live in the big city, especially after 2020. Yeah. It's like, I'm not. And then, my wife and I would like to go to South Florida. Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful area, but I don't want to live in Florida all year round. Yeah. And then we got involved locally in a lot of the grassroots organizations, and we've developed some relationships, and we've started learning from other people's neighbors, friends, other people that knew way more about this than we do. And we just, 3 or 4 months ago, came back from a trip out of town to, I think we were in Florida. And we came back, and it was just this feeling when you're getting off that exit, getting back into Dearborn County, and you're going, this is home. And I remember saying to my wife, if we lose this, where are we going to go? Yeah. Are we going to move someplace else in the state of Indiana? Are we going to go to Tennessee, Florida? We move into, Idaho? There's just it's not perfect. There's a lot of things we need to do to improve our area. But that core feel, if that goes, if we let Northern Kentucky's too developed for me. Right. And I don't want to become like that. And I sure as heck don't want to become the west side of Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. And my concern is when you bring in too many people into an area and it becomes concentrated housing, Well, there's a certain type of person that wants to live in the city, and
sure
they vote a certain way, and they have certain values. Yes. And I'm like, okay, so if we lose this portion, what are we doing? We moving 2-3 counties west?
Right,
you know, like,
right.
And so that's where the issue started coming up as a topic of conversation. But understanding TIFs and understanding sewer boards and understanding rezoning and understanding all these other complicated issues that I just never thought about.
Yeah.
I was thinking about federal issues. I was thinking about foreign policy or get rid of taxes or getting rid of socialism for all these people sitting on the couch while I'm working paying taxes.
Right.
You never really think about these more complicated issues.
You don't. So very good point. You got to think about it. You got to spend a little bit of time educating yourself and educating your leaders about it too. It's so important. But I agree with you. I couldn't agree more. I mean, my happiest memories, what I long for is being out here in the country. Because I work in Cincinnati. It's not a place I want to be. It's work.
Yeah.
But it's not thriving. This area is what I see as a thriving lifestyle for so many people, and they love it. And let's preserve it, what we have. That's what I'm all about. Is preserving the good things that we have here, and not letting our governments take that away or develop it, take it away. People that don't have our best interest at heart take it away. That's what I'm concerned about, and that's why I've stood up.
Well, Steve and Otte, thanks for coming on Time with Uncle Sam, man.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Pleasure.